And moving now to our other big focus on NDTV, the northeastern state of Manipur. Well, after a standoff between a mob led by women and security forces that had cordoned off the Itham village in the Imphal East district of Manipur, where a dozen members of a militant group were hiding, the army took what they called a mature decision to not risk civilian lives, and they left with seized weapons and ammunition. This is what the army has said in a statement. The Metai militant group was involved in a number of attacks, including the ambush of a 6 Dogra unit in 2015. Now, the standoff in Itham went on throughout yesterday and ended after the army's mature decision by the operational commander, keeping in view the sensitivity of the use of kinetic force against a large and irate mob led by women, and also the likely deaths. Now, this is what the army has said in a statement. Among those hauled up in the village was self-styled Lieutenant Colonel Moirang Them Tamba, alias Uttam, a wanted terrorist who may have been the mastermind behind the Dogra ambush in 2015. The 1,500-strong mob led by women surrounded the army column and prevented forces from going ahead with the operation. Well, the army says the repeated appeals to the aggressive mob to let the security forces carry on with the operation as per law did not yield any positive result. The army's decision to leave was taken keeping in mind the need to avoid collateral damage and deaths in Manipur. Remember, the unrest in Manipur continues for now over 2 months. And well, now opposition parties have demanded the removal of Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh and have called for the imposition of president's rule in the northeastern state, something that's been an impending demand. They've argued that peace cannot be achieved until trust is reinstated among local communities. This came to light during an all-party meeting convened by the Union Home Minister Amit Shah yesterday. Meanwhile, in Manipur itself, protests by civil society groups both in the valley and in the tribal areas continued.
The Union Home Ministry briefing members of political parties from across the country with a detailed presentation on the Manipur situation. The Union Home Minister listened to the suggestions of all parties, including the Congress, and said after discussing with officials he would respond to their suggestions of an all-party delegation to Manipur. Nearly 120 people have died and over 3,000 have been injured in the ethnic violence that continues since the first week of May.
प्रधानमंत्री जी की चुप्पी को लेकर हमने कहा कि प्रधानमंत्री जी को किसी तरीके का जो कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग मेजर होता है वो प्रधानमंत्री जी जब तक नहीं बोलेंगे कहीं ना कहीं मणिपुर के मन में लगेगा, मणिपुरी लोगों के मन में होगा कि उनका ध्यान मणिपुर को लेकर नहीं। साथ ही साथ ऑल पार्टी डेलीगेशन वहाँ पे विजिट करे, देखे ऑन ग्राउंड क्या हालत है, तो वो भी हमने उनको सजेशन दिया है। उन्होंने ये आश्वासन दिया है कि जो चीज़ें वो कर पाएंगे और जो सुझाव हैं जो हमने दिए हैं उनको वो किसी तरीके से इम्प्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश करेंगे।
बिना कोई भेदभाव के सारे मिलिटेंट ग्रुप के पास जो हथियार है वो उनसे छीनना चाहिए। जब तक ये मुख्यमंत्री बीरेन सिंह मुख्यमंत्री रहेंगे तब तक मणिपुर में कोई परिवर्तन की संभावना नहीं है।
एक तो बड़े खुले मन से बात हुई। There was absolutely an open kind of situation where we all expressed our mind. Entire opposition went to the extent of saying that the person who is heading the administration there is absolutely no trust in him. So even if you wish to broker peace, wish to work on peace, you cannot have peace unless that person is in charge.
बैठक में एक माहौल पॉजिटिविटी की, सकारात्मकता की थी। सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने कोऑपरेशन की बात कही। सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने कहा कि हम भी चाहते हैं कि यथाशीघ्र वहां शांति बहाली हो। प्रतिनिधिमंडल भी सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के जो मौजूद थे उन्होंने भी इस बात की सराहना की कि आज से पहले ये अनप्रेसिडेंटेड रहा है कि कोई गृह मंत्री 3 रात और 3 दिन मणिपुर में बिता करके या किसी राज्य जहां दंगे हो रहे हो वहां बिता करके आए।
The meeting lasted for over 3 hours. 2 main issues were raised by all opposition parties. First was that they wanted all party delegation, which includes opposition leaders also, to be taken to Manipur so that they can assess the ground situations themselves. And second, the Chief Minister of Manipur, Mr. Biren Singh, should resign.
Meanwhile, in the Imphal Valley, women's groups seeking the intervention of the Prime Minister to resolve the crisis in Manipur. In tribal areas of Manipur like Churachandpur on Saturday, thousands in black clothes, black masks, forming a human chain on the roadside, while leaders of the Joint Students' Body walked with black dummy coffins in memory of those who've died in this violence. Meanwhile, the army is engaged in ensuring the security of citizens and responding to miscreants disturbing peace. After the all-party meet, the hope is that there will be a breakthrough and a peaceful solution will emerge for Manipur. With Neeta Sharma, an NDTV Bureau Report.
The other big headline this morning, the Prime Minister is in Egypt for a 2-day state visit in which he will be holding key talks with the Egyptian leadership. In fact, he's already held key bilaterals with the Egyptian leadership there, including President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, as the two nations seek to enhance their strategic partnership. PM Modi is visiting Egypt at the invitation of Egyptian President el-Sisi, and this is the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister in the last 26 years. PM Modi began his visit with discussions with the Egyptian Prime Minister and top cabinet ministers to deepen trade relations. Trade and strategy, remember, is the key focus as far as Prime Minister's visit is concerned. Now, in his first engagement, the Prime Minister held a meeting with the newly set up India unit in the Egyptian cabinet, headed by the Prime Minister himself. Discussions focused on deepening cooperation across a range of areas, including trade, investment, renewable energy, green hydrogen, information technology, digital payment platforms, pharmaceuticals, and most importantly, the people-to-people ties. And remember, the Prime Minister has been on a 5-day foreign tour. Before Egypt, he was in the United States. And the Prime Minister just completed, in fact, a power-packed visit to the US upon the invitation of US President Joe Biden, which saw a state dinner, a rare honor in itself, bilateral meetings with Biden, a historic US Congress address, and a speech to the Indian-American diaspora. Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden marked what they have described as a new stage in the India-US relationship. In fact, the Prime Minister said that after this, even sky is not the limit for India-US ties.
India's indigenous Tejas fighter, designed and developed primarily within the country after the US sanctioned New Delhi after the nuclear tests of 1998. Critical development work on the jet being done with US assistance had then come grinding to a halt, forcing India to develop key technologies at home. 25 years later, the heart of the next generation Tejas Mark II, its engine, will not only be American, but will now be manufactured in India. After a landmark jet engine tech transfer deal from America to India. In fact, America's never transferred such technology to any other country. And it's clear that this is a defense relationship that's come around at 360 degrees.
जनरल इलेक्ट्रिक कंपनी का भारत में फाइटर प्लेन के इंजन बनाने का फैसला भारत के डिफेंस सेक्टर के लिए ये मील का पत्थर साबित होगा। ये समझौता करके अमेरिका सिर्फ टेक्नोलॉजी ही शेयर नहीं करेगा, बल्कि म्यूचुअल ट्रस्ट को भी शेयर करेगा।
This is the MQ-9B drone, the other big-ticket defense item announced during the Prime Minister's visit. India is getting 31 of them in a deal thought to be worth about $3 billion. A decade ago, US export restrictions had meant that India would not be authorized to receive these drones, the most advanced of their class in the world. The strategic relationship today is the product of a series of foundational agreements, painfully negotiated over a decade. They allow Indian and US forces to operate closely together and for India to acquire some of the most sophisticated US weaponry. The General Security of Military Information Agreement, the Logistics Support Agreement, the Communications and Information Security Memorandum of Agreement, and the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Intelligence.
In simple terms, what these agreements have resulted in are US and Indian platforms, by which I mean ships, maritime reconnaissance aircraft, and drones being able to share electronic data with each other securely through encrypted systems for our forces to be able to work with one another and for extremely sensitive real-time intelligence information often acquired from US satellites to be made available to Indian forces. Now, neither India nor the US will spell out exactly how they cooperate, but we can confirm that the relationship is profound and involves tracking China's movements on our land frontier and out at sea.
In 2023, India and the United States now work closer militarily than the US does with any nation except its NATO partners. These Malabar naval exercises include India, the US, Japan and Australia, and are part of a collective military strategy in tackling an expansionist Chinese military. Today, the Chinese Navy, for example, is challenging the US Navy for global supremacy, and Beijing has built its first overseas base in India's backyard in Djibouti in the Horn of Africa, details of which NDTV reported through these satellite images. By coming together strategically, India hopes to shore up its defenses, while the US addresses, with its pronounced tilt now to the Indo-Pacific region, its security concerns, the common threat, China. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
So defining moment there for India-US strategic ties. Short break now. There's more news on the other side. Stay with us.
Of
NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debate, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV,
Welcome back. Some tragic news coming in from Mumbai. 2 labourers in Mumbai's Govandi area died after heavy rain in several parts of Mumbai. Now, the workers had drowned in an overflowing manhole or drain while carrying out routine water flow tests. Their bodies were pulled out by fire officials at the spot and they were rushed to a hospital but could not be saved. Now, several parts of Mumbai have been receiving heavy rainfall. In Juhu, police officials were able to save 2 children who were drowning in the sea. Now remember, above rainfall is being witnessed not just in the Govandi area but also in Andheri, Chembur, Ghatkopar and Matunga as well. So there you can see these are visuals of several areas being waterlogged in Mumbai. And moving now to Delhi, well, moderate to heavy intensity rainfall coupled with thunderstorm lashed several parts of the national capital this morning and also the neighbouring areas. The downpour brought down some relief from the severe heat that was being witnessed not just in Delhi but several parts of North India. Now, the Met Department has predicted more such showers in the days to come. And well, news now coming in from West Bengal. 2 goods trains have collided with each other near the Bankura area of West Bengal in the early hours of today morning, and this resulted in the derailment of several bogies as well. The incident happened at the Onda station. The rail operation on Kharagpur, Bankura and Andhra line has been halted. However, the latest that we're getting is that the up main line and the loop line have been restored after those restoring operations were on for several hours. The incident happened at around 4 a.m. and the tracks were restored at 7 a.m. this morning. And now to a special NDTV report. Well, June 21st was the International Day of Yoga, and yoga has found a huge following across the globe with many benefits for the mind, body and the soul. Well, a large part of the credit for that goes to BKS Iyengar, one of the foremost gurus of yoga who popularized it first time in India and then across the globe. The style of yoga he founded was called Iyengar Yoga, and it is best known for its emphasis on detail, precision and alignment. Take a look at this report.
Amina Bharatram's very detailed and precise instructions that are helping her students achieve the correct body alignment in each asana is what Iyengar Yoga is best known for. These instructions and demonstrations aren't just to help the students get into the asanas, they are to help them deepen their understanding of the postures and what they're doing for body and mind. Iyengar Yoga was developed to make yoga accessible for everyone, even those with chronic health conditions or physical injuries.
In 2002 or 3, I had a slip disc and I was laid up in bed and I was given a lot of painkillers and I was advised surgery. Then I was introduced to this Iyengar Yoga by my sister-in-law and my journey began since then. So Iyengar Yoga, it's not just a practice, it's a way of life. Also Iyengar Yoga is like a slow dose. It's not that dawai kha liya aur theek ho gaye. It's not that. It takes time.
Helping students experience the full benefits of the asanas are the Iyengar Yoga props. Bolsters, bricks, belts, chairs, benches. They support the body in different asanas so that even inexperienced, elderly, injured, fatigued or ill students can perform them more easily. In fact, the attention to specific alignment and the use of props make Iyengar Yoga not only unique but also therapeutic for people with a host of health issues.
I joined Iyengar Yoga a little over 5 years back, and when I joined I came with a lot of neck and shoulder issues, which was in severe pain with severe hardness and stiffness and a continuous pain all throughout, and the pain was used to bother me all day long and all night. I was on almost like drugs every day. It has been transformative for me.
Suppose you take a palette, you have a black color and you have a white color. Now different combinations if I mix, I'll get zillions of different shades in the middle, right? So the same way each pose, each sequencing of a pose will give you different chemicals in your mind, permutation and combinations. So we will do poses which calms the mind, which relaxes the mind. So and then you will have clarity in your mind and you will have peace in your mind.
Guruji, as BKS Iyengar was known, believed that yoga is much more than a physical practice. It is an art, a science and a philosophy. And so for its practitioners, Iyengar Yoga impacts not just their physical well-being, but also helps them in every aspect of daily living.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, Building a Blueprint for Climate Action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time. The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is...
Hello guys, welcome to another fresh episode of your favorite gadget show, Gadgets 360 with Technical Guruji, जहाँ पे हम बात करते हैं in the world of gadgets, covering everything from smartphones to don't know, मतलब बड़े से बड़े gadgets, basically everything. And this week in this episode, I've got something special for you. We are going out of the studio, जहाँ पे हम दिखाएंगे आपको एक अच्छी सी facility. I'll show you how mobile phones are made. In fact, साथ में we have some leaks about the new iPhones and whatnot. बहुत कुछ फन होने वाला है, बहुत मजा भी आने वाला है. My name is Gaurav, aka Technical Guruji. जल्दी से आगे बढ़ते हैं. चलिए शुरू करते हैं. So guys, for the top story of the week, I have a special treat for you, for all of you who love gadgets, because abhi we are going to a facility जहाँ पे mobile phones बनाए जाते हैं. We are going to cover how Techno makes and does all the tests, everything at their facility with all their smartphones. Let's have a look. This is the Techno facility where they manufacture millions of phones every year, and recently even the market for Techno has grown a lot with the launch of new Phantom series. In fact, the Phantom V Fold was the first folding phone to be made in India, and actually the phone was made right inside here. So let's go inside, have a closer look just to see how the phones are made, how the phones are tested, and what all goes in the entire process of making smartphones.
पीसीबी क्या है? बेसिकली किसी एक फोन का हार्ट है, कोर पार्ट. जो मेरी पीसीबी रेडी होगी, देन ओनली आई कैन असेंबल द फोन. तो ये मेरी पीसीबी है. अभी तक ये सिर्फ पीसीबी है. जी. दैट इज नॉट द पीसीबी है, क्योंकि ये एक मेरा बेयर बोर्ड है जिसको मैं अपना अभी जिग्स में फिक्स कर रही हूँ.
Guys, if you see, the camera is scanning bit by bit the entire section of all these 4 PCBs, and finally we'll have a result that good. So यहाँ पे the machine is doing all the work and precisely putting in the right component in the right place, और बाहर हमको मिलेगा PCB with everything on top. यहाँ पे हमारा सब कुछ लग चुका है. We have the processor, we have this is basically the SIM tray जहाँ पे आप SIM cards लगाते हो. So all these kind of tiny components ये इस पूरे setup में mount किए हैं. We have these machines wherein the systems are completely in place. You just load, in batches, and you can see the progress. Basically, all the required files, the complete software is loaded. The kind of components, with so much of detail that are put in.
यहाँ पे ये आपका फार एंड नियर डिस्टेंस वाला कैमरा टेस्ट करता है.
Focusing and everything.
Focusing and everything. फिर उसके साथ साथ में यहाँ पे ये इस फॉर्म के थ्रू चेक करें कि कैमरा लगने के बाद उसमें कोई स्पॉट तो नहीं आया है.
Camon 20 series camera is definitely of prime highlight, जहाँ पे it's also having OIS. So in this machine, the OIS testing is going on. ये back panel है. Front and sides बनते बनते फोन यहाँ तक पहुँचा है. Glue लग चुका है. And this machine making sure that everything is completely together. Literally thousands of phones in this small space for the aging test. I want to count how many phones in one rack. If I count 1, 2, 3. Guys, 50 phones in one rack You can see all the chargers, all the phones are plugged in. और ऐसे we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 racks. These are for the aging test. It runs for 8 straight hours. All the phones are powered, continuously all the time, and then multiple tests are being run just to make sure that the phone is completely reliable, everything is working as intended, ताकि जब phone market में customers के हाथों में जाए तो एकदम as expected काम करे. So guys, as you saw in this episode, we have been talking about the Camon 20 lineup, and like this in my hand is the Camon 20 Pro. In the Camon series, camera is of prime importance. तो हमने phone को बनते हुए देखा, सारी हमने testing देखी, but because camera is kind of one of the important bits of this phone. Now let's check कि how the camera is tested.
तो इसके अंदर हम कुछ ऑब्जेक्टिव टेस्ट करते हैं जो कि मैं आपको बताता हूँ. ये डार्क रूम है. इस मशीन का नाम है स्पेक्ट्रलाइट QC. Like this.
Okay.
ठीक है, मैं आपको लाइव बताता हूँ अपने कंप्यूटर में.
तो बेसिकली उसने इस फोटो को एनालाइज किया है और इस फोटो को एनालाइज करके हमको एग्जैक्ट सारी वैल्यूज मिली हैं कि
करेक्ट सैचुरेशन की वैल्यू, AWB की वैल्यू,
अंडरस्टूड,
नॉइस की वैल्यू, सारी वैल्यूज यहाँ से वैलिड होती हैं.
राइट नाउ आई एम एट द फैसिलिटी जहाँ पे द फोन्स आर टेस्टेड अक्रॉस different set of user behaviors just to make sure that they are as reliable as they can be. This is the test which is the most important, I think, because whenever you keep your phone in your back pocket and you sit, lots of pressure is applied on the phone. तो यहाँ पे ये machine जो है यही test कर रही है with a force of 20 kgf, and this is done 3000 times. Multiple times, the force is being put just to make sure कि phone physically strong है. I'll try to make sure it lands on screen. यहाँ से ना इस side से. This phone is being tested for impacts of corrosion, let's say, because this is the salt spray test to simulate what can go wrong in a real world. And this is for how long, sir?
Sir,
24 hours. I have with me Arijit, the CEO of Technomobiles India. Arijit, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Absolutely good.
I mean, impressed by the setup that you have. I have observed the journey of Techno in India from being a 10K brand to kind of going up the hill now and with a Phantom V Fold, achieving the foldable technology. How do you think your journey has been?
हमारा जर्नी 2017 में शुरू हुआ और 2017 में जब हमने शुरू किया, our first and only objective is we wanted to understand our consumers. And first we were primarily focusing on the less than 20K segment.
Yeah.
And less than 20K segment, what is the consumer want, what is a requirement, what is his desire, what is his aspiration, और उसके हिसाब से उसको क्या दिया जाए ताकि वो delighted हो. Then we came to the premium segment with the Phantom X, Phantom X2 Pro हमने लॉन्च किया इस साल के शुरू में. वर्ल्ड्स फर्स्ट रिट्रैक्टेबल कैमरा. उसका जो बैक कवर है वो रिन्यूएबल प्लास्टिक वेस्ट इंडियन ओशन से उससे बना है. और मेरे को पता है कि आपको फैंटम V Fold बहुत पसंद है.
Phantom V Fold, to be honest, I'll ask another question because the way I experienced the phone, it felt nice in the hand. Like, it gave a good premium experience. And the best part that I was, curious about कि आपने phone India में बनाया, and Techno being the first brand to manufacture a foldable in India.
Absolutely.
How do you think that has been for you?
देखिए, Phantom V Fold हमने इसी फैक्ट्री में बनाया है, and the consumers have loved it.
Yeah.
And what we always surprise is that we say India is a price sensitive market.
It is.
तो हमने एक फोल्ड लॉन्च किया, the largest fold almost at a flip price. 10,000 से 1 लाख का हैंडसेट तो हमने पूरा डिवाइसेस लॉन्च किया ही है. इसके बाद हम AIoT प्रोडक्ट्स में काफ़ी अच्छी तरह ला रहे हैं और अगले महीने तक आपको लैपटॉप में भी कुछ सुनाई देगा.
मैं सवाल पूछने वाला था कि अभी आगे क्या होने वाला है, आपने पहले ही बता दिया. अभी मैंने कैमॉन को बनते हुए देखा एंड आई थिंक the word stands for camera on.
Yes.
That's the kind of Camon thing. Camon में मैंने देखा कि for example, let's say with the sensor shift technology.
Correct.
Or maybe the RGBW Pro sensor.
Correct.
How do you think, I mean, like cameras लोगों को ज़्यादा पसंद आ रहे हैं या फिर लोग cameras ज़्यादा use कर रहे हैं?
As you said, camera on. तो आज कैमरा के काफ़ी रीजंस हैं. एक, लोग सोशल मीडिया में हर वक्त रहते हैं. तो जब सोशल मीडिया में हर वक्त रहते हैं तो एक अच्छा फ़ोन होना चाहिए जिसका कैमरा बहुत अच्छा हो. आज अगर आप फोन्स देखेंगे तो डिफरेंशिएशन नॉर्मल फोन्स में बहुत कम है। हाँ। तो एक अच्छा कैमरा इज क्लियर डिफरेंशिएशन ऑफ दैट फोन। कैमन 20 में अल्टीमेट इमेजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी हम कर रहे हैं लो लाइट फोटोग्राफी के लिए, क्योंकि अभी इट्स ऑल अबाउट एनी लाइट फोटोग्राफी। ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको लाइट में ही फोटो लेना पड़ेगा। ऑल्सो द एंटी शेक सेंसरशिप जो ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, आप मूव कर रहे हैं, आप भागते हुए भी अगर फोटो ले,
told that it adjusts itself 5,000 times each second.
Absolutely.
और हम क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं from the world of techno going forward?
देखिए, हमारा फोकस 10,000 से 1 लाख के बीच में हर सेगमेंट में रहेगा, और हर सेगमेंट में हमारा हर चैनल में रहेगा। फोल्ड तो हमने ले ही आए हैं। हाँ। आपको बहुत जल्दी H2 में आपको टेक्नो फ्लिप के बारे में सुनाई देगा।
So guys, you are hearing for the first time here, I think.
Future अच्छा रहेगा, प्रोडक्ट्स लाते रहेंगे।
Guys, that's the line coming from Arijit. Future अच्छा रहेगा because टेक्नो 10,000 से लेके 1 लाख के प्राइस ब्रैकेट में अक्रॉस कैटेगरीज, अक्रॉस काइंड ऑफ चैनल्स नए प्रोडक्ट्स लेके आने वाला है, जहाँ पे 2 confirmations we already have from him, which is the टेक्नो लैपटॉप and the टेक्नो flip coming soon to you. Guys, I'm sure you enjoyed this close look at how mobile phones are manufactured, because at times when we use these gadgets, हमको मजा तो बहुत आता है, but we almost forget that what takes to make these mobile phones, and not just the manufacturing, even the reliability thing was all fun. मतलब जब मैंने फोन गिराया ना, I felt कि वो टूट गया, but it was all okay, and we in our daily lives might not use these gadgets to these extents, but it's always a treat to see that how brands are pushing in all they can just to make sure that we get good products. And by the way, इस शो में आपके लिए बहुत कुछ good आने वाला है, in fact better और best भी आने वाला है, but that's on the other side, because I'm gonna see you after a short break.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting, so you can get news that you can rely on.
a debate has many facets. Perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change, and it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting, so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
Hello guys, welcome back to your favorite show about gadgets, the place where you get information about क्या नया आने वाला है, क्या चल रहा है और क्या आगे होने वाला है, because this is Gadgets 360 with Technical Guruji. My name is Gaurav TG, your host, और आज इस episode में I'm gonna show you something super exclusive, because in my hands this is the all new iPhone 15 Pro, जो कि Apple सितंबर में लॉन्च करेगा. I have managed to get dummies of all the upcoming new iPhones. We have the iPhone 15 Pro, the Pro Max, the 15, the 15 Plus, basically everything. और आपको बताने वाला हूँ कि क्या नया होने वाला है और क्या कुछ changes हम expect कर सकते हैं इस पूरे lineup में. The first thing, which is pretty obvious, the moment I had a look, was कि यहाँ पे अभी finally in the entire iPhone lineup we are getting the USB-C port. So no more Lightning, जो कि iPhone 5 के टाइम पे अनाउंस हुआ था. अभी finally it's all USB-C across the lineup. Now one more change is the in-hand feel of these phones, because now the edges are slightly curved, on both the sides. तो अगर आपने Pro phone पकड़ा है या Standard 15 पकड़ा है, आपको in-hand feel काफी अच्छा होने वाला है, because normally you see with all these new iPhones, because of the sharp edges, sometimes जब आप लंबे टाइम तक फोन को यूज करते हो तो you will feel कि phone is kind of digging in your palms, but अभी ऐसा नहीं होने वाला है. Another change I can give you is पीछे की तरफ, if you see, the 15 lineup is with this matte finish. Usually the way Apple does is the base phones, like for example the 14 and the 14 Plus, they'll have a glossy finish, लेकिन जो Pro वाले phones होते हैं उसमें हमको मिलता है एक matte finish, but this time across the lineup we have a matte feel. तो अभी कुछ Apple नया करने वाला है. And one last thing जो नई होने वाली है, जो मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ, which is clearly visual from the outside, is the new kind of buttons in the Pro lineup. These are not for the standard 15 and the 15 Plus, but in fact for the Pro lineup now, I have a different kind of a mute switch. So maybe it's a solid state button जहाँ पे you apply some pressure and then maybe you can use different levels of pressure, gives you different kinds of things. Same thing goes with the volume button, because now it's kind of like a single unit, like a bigger capsule giving you the volume up and down options. So हो सकता है कि Apple कुछ नया करने वाला है. अब now we just need to wait till September to find out कि what exactly Apple is planning to pack inside these phones. Cameras कैसे होंगे या display में कुछ हमको नया मिलता है या नहीं. अच्छा, for a fact, I'll give you one more exclusive. Now, I'm not sure of this, but the way these dummies were sent to us, and the packing said iPhone 15 Ultra, not iPhone 15 Pro Max. So, हो सकता है Apple might change their naming scheme. So, this would be could be iPhone 15 Ultra. So let's see कि क्या exactly होता है in the week of September जब Apple इन नए फोन्स को लॉन्च करता है. लॉन्च से काफी पहले हमने पूरा देख लिया है the first glimpse of the new iPhone lineup. उस टाइम पे we'll again see and आप बताना कि क्या जो मैंने बातें बोली हैं उसमें से सच हुई हैं. Just adding one thing here, फोन्स हम सभी के पास में हैं, हम सभी इनको यूज करते हैं और मोस्टली लोग दिन भर यूज करते हैं फोन्स को ऐसे पकड़ के चैटिंग. तो आई एम गोना गिव यू द टेक टिप ऑफ दिस वीक wherein you can enhance your experience if you are chatting a lot on phones, especially WhatsApp. Now guys, as I give you all the tips for all the gadgets that you use all the time, but I'm sure this one is going to be one of the most important one because WhatsApp has just come up with 2 new features. Lots of users were complaining calls from unknown numbers and eventually ending up in a scammy situation. So now you have the option to silence those calls from unknown numbers straight away with just one click. And if you're thinking that उस टाइम पे क्या होगा जब कोई आपका पुराना दोस्त आपको कॉल कर रहा है, the call logs gonna be there, but basically the concept is that you don't get disturbed by these unknown callers. And at times लोग बहुत scams में फंस रहे थे, तो this is again a good thing from that point of view. And additionally we have one more thing which is very important for all the users of WhatsApp, because at times privacy settings are hidden deep inside the menus, but now we have a new privacy guide which is going to show you all possible options for different attributes, and the user can then decide that उनको कौन सी settings रखनी है, कितना privacy को maintain करना है, कितना नहीं करना है. Basically, given the kind of size of user base that WhatsApp has, I'm sure these 2 new features will bring in safe chatting environment for all of us. Guys, now it's time for my favorite part of the show wherein I am answering all your questions जो भी आपने पूछे हैं at the email. You know the email already, but if you don't, the email address is very simple. It's tg@ndtv.com जहाँ पे आप सभी सवाल पूछते हैं and I'm gonna give all the answers. Let's see what we have this week. So yours the best gadget, the best tool to kind of track your health, to track all your activities. Ideally to begin with, I think would be an alarm clock यार, because अगर उठोगे नहीं टाइम पे तो वो activities करोगे कब जो track करना चाहते हो. But again, if you want to actually track maybe your calorie burn or your sleep, like multiple things, then we have numerous gadgets, numerous products. You can start with a very simple, fitness band, fitness tracker. You can go up to a smartwatch. You can go towards like likes of Garmin, for example, जहाँ पे वो dedicated हैं to track in all your runs and everything. So it all depends on your budget, your preference, your style. But ideally, I would want to say, get any basic fitness band just to get the, just the basic calculations right. And eventually, you can dive deep in the world of, this tracking and everything. And now next, we have a video question from Amisha. Let's see.
Hello Technical Guruji, big fan. Thank you for this opportunity to let me ask this question. My phone's battery goes away faster, so how should I make it last longer?
What a simple question, and I'll give you the simplest possible answer. Phone use mat karo. फोन ज़्यादा यूज़ मत करो तो लंबा चलेगा. But okay, if you want to use your phone like we all do and still want that your phone should last longer, then there are multiple ways. Maybe you can reduce the display brightness. Maybe you can uninstall all the unused apps. Maybe they are running in the background draining your battery. You can use some battery saver option if in case your phone has one. Otherwise, you can use dark mode if your phone has an AMOLED screen. Just to make sure कि आप कम से कम resources use करोगे, और अगर आप कम से कम resources use करोगे तो eventually your phone's gonna last longer. Or the best would be, I think, if you can enable a black and white mode on your phone, because if your phone becomes black and white, you would end up using it lesser. Eventually your phone's gonna last long. So guys, that's it for this episode, and I'm sure you had all the fun because I showcased this factory in front of you. We had a first look for the first time at the dummies of the new upcoming iPhone 15 lineup. हमने सवाल जवाब भी कर लिए हैं, tech tip आपको मिल चुकी है. Basically सारा मजा I'm sure you are getting. And guys, if you want to ask any questions, any feedback, anything, you want to write, the email address is tg@ndtv.com for all your queries. And who knows, agla video agle time pe aapka chal raha hoga, and I'll giving you all the answers. I'm gonna see you next week. That's it for this week. Thank you. Have a good day.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
a debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
a debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 23, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. The first big and sincere meet of the opposition parties took place in Patna on Friday. Notice these two words, big and sincere opposition unity meeting. Players who one often thought will never come together were seen on the same stage, participating. What was often written off as a futile, faction-ridden exercise was, in a somewhat exacting form, undertaken. The objective? A united front against the BJP in 2024. One against one electoral contest. This means for every BJP candidate, an attempt to field one united opposition candidate. Now, some parties were absent. Some gave their reasons too, like Mayawati of the BSP. She feels haath se haath mile, dil se dil nahi mile, which means you may be holding hands, but your heart is not in the right place. Others like Mamta Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal were seen setting aside their differences in strong opposition to the Congress to at least attend this meeting. However, at the end of this meeting, there was an ultimatum from Arvind Kejriwal's party that if the Congress does not support the opposing of the ordinance, then in that case, the Aam Aadmi Party will not be a part of any such alliance. Obviously, some maneuvering is already happening. Now, what is the BJP doing all this while? The BJP has been taunting this meeting all day, saying that this is a marriage of convenience and it will not last. And the case in point for them is Mr. Arvind Kejriwal and others. They say that the very same socialists who were jailed by the Congress, jailed by Indira Gandhi during the emergency, are now with the Congress. The mission opposition seems to be very clear. They want these meetings to be, as we use the word, exacting, that you have to fulfill your goal. This meeting will now take place in other states. I believe it will go to Himachal Pradesh, then it will go to other states also. But interesting choice of location for the first big and sincere meeting, Bihar. This is a state which has been the birthplace of a political revolution. Remember the JP movement? Remember the independence movement? Now, more recently, the 2015 Mahagathbandhan against the BJP. So the most important question now, can it happen in 2024? So on The Big Fight tonight, opposition unity, will there be a meeting of the minds? Let me introduce our guests. Dr. Ajay Kumar of the Congress Party is with us. Reena Gupta, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Satyaprakash Mishra, spokesperson of the JDU, in the studio with me. Thank you very much. Ghanshyam Tewari, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. We also have Biswajit Deb of the Trinamool Congress. And as the show goes along, we have Aarti Jerath, also senior journalist, to give her perspective. Because Aarti Jerath and I have had multiple big fights together in trying to figure out whether this will be a reality or not, or is this a, as many people call it, a futile exercise by the opposition. Many more guests are going to join us. So let us begin what we call is the first punch. I'm going to start with Mr. S.P. Mishra because this meeting began in a state where you are in power. Bihar has had a history of change. Bihar has had a history of revolution. My question remains the same. Can something happen in 2024? Your opening comments, Mr. Mishra.
You know, today is a historic day in Indian politics because, you know, so many parties with different kind of opinion came together and had a meeting with a single objective. Let's sit together and discuss the political situation and save the democracy. In the press briefing of even every leader, they talked one thing: we have to save democracy. But in the, you know, the nation is not saved in the hands of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Parties from Kanyakumari to Kashmir have a single mind now, and definitely Nitish Kumar ji started this campaign of unity of opposition in India that will mark a new journey in the political history of India. So wait for 2024. What the Amit Shah today claimed that they will be winning 300 seats. You know, 6 months and 7 months back, he was claiming they will be winning 350 seats. I say they will reduce seats by 50, 50, 50, and they will go to 100, what Nitish Kumar ji has already expressed once. If the all opposition parties sat together, BJP would be reduced to 100. That's the final point.
Okay. I also believe Mr. Nitish Kumar once said the BJP will be reduced to 50. So you have also increase their tally by 50.
No,
I'll come back to you. Reena Gupta of the Aam Aadmi Party, a party which has issued an ultimatum to the Congress. Your opening comments.
Sanket, today was a big day where opposition parties came together to save democracy and save the constitution. But Congress party chose not to make a stand clear on the Delhi ordinance. The Delhi ordinance, which is against the basic structure of the constitution, it is against federalism. And we have to remember that this ordinance is not about Delhi. Bharatiya Janata Party can bring out similar ordinances in several other states. So today, Congress chose not to oppose Bharatiya Janata Party. Congress chose not to save democracy and the constitution. A party that has come out of the freedom movement, that has had tall leaders. I am not sure why they did not make their stand very clear. In some ways, this makes them the B team of Bharatiya Janata Party, because the ordinance is very clear. It's a black ordinance against
time up.
constitution, against democracy.
I'm going to come back to you. Your time is up. So your colleague is very interesting. Even now, on the big day of this big meet, we keep hearing this expression B team, and very generously used by all opposition players against one another. BJP has been making a lot of comments about this opposition meeting. RP Singh, your opening comments.
Well, I'm shocked at Ajay Kumar's comment. Lalu Yadav have gone to jail twice, one in emergency and one after that during Congress UPA regime. So both the time Lalu Yadav was in jail because of UPA and not because of BJP. I mean, the case which is now going, it will take some more time. Probably he has to go for another term of jail. That point aside. But what sort of alliance is it? I mean, Arvind Kejriwal party and the Speaker Reena has categorically stated that they are the B team of BJP, and one of the another key spokesman said that Rahul Gandhi has met us, or probably he has joined hand with us. So this clearly shows. And Ajay Ranjan Da is still on hunger strike, or probably on a dharna in Calcutta still. So they are coming only together to just do a photo op. Otherwise, tell me, will Congress and Communist Party join hand in Kerala? Will they go together? Or will Communist Party and Mamata Banerjee join hand at Bengal? Or for that regard, how about Telangana? Will Congress join or the KCR join hand in Telangana? So will YSR join hand with them in Andhra Pradesh?
Yeah,
so
okay. So you're talking about the tricky members of the alliance. Yeah, 1 minute time is up, Mr. RP Singh. I'm going to come. Yeah.
So they are already talking about joining hand, where they are already there together. Whether it is Maharashtra, whether it is Jharkhand, or whether it is Bihar. I mean, they are together here already there. I mean, what are they telling the country that?
Okay.
Are there new alliances which are happening?
Okay. Bishwajit Deb of the Trinamool Congress. Your opening comments.
You see, our leader Mamata Banerjee, she has very categorically said today that BJP wants to change the history. But history will be saved from Bihar. And she has also said that we are united We will fight this unitedly, and don't consider this as a fight of the opposition, but a fight against an autocratic force, a fight against the dictatorship of BJP. Whatever BJP is doing since the last 9 years under the leadership of Narendra Modi is totally a policy of dictatorship, a policy of religious politics, a communal politics, no development in India, no job, no employment, bulldozing each and every bills in the parliament, no discussions in the parliament, oppositions are not allowed to raise their voices, even the Supreme Court is not spared, the Supreme Court is under target of the BJP, so there is no democracy. So if we need to save democracy, if we need to save the constitution, we all have to unite. And this is just the beginning. Patna is just the beginning.
Okay.
We have just started
of the Samajwadi Party.
We will definitely through.
Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, opening comments.
Good evening, Sanket. Good evening, Sanket, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Chief Minister of Bihar, Nitish Kumar, for setting off what will be a transformational movement in Indian politics. As India works together, we the people work together to save the spirit of our constitution. Whether it is President Obama in United States or the question that was asked to Prime Minister Modi or this opposition meet, when we look at the preamble of our constitution, it talks about we the people, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, talks about justice for citizens, liberty, equality, fraternity. It is these very aspects of the citizens that is threatened by BJP. Whether it is a federal structure and how BJP is ruining Manipur is visible as Manipur burns, whether it is the liberty of citizens in the ability to practice their faith, their religion, whether it is the freedom of speech, whether it is our institutions. So it is momentous that parties have come together, and we believe that this will set in track the idea of India that will defeat BJP.
Okay, all right. Aarti Jerath, opening comments.
Yes, Sanket, good to be back on a show discussing opposition unity again with you.
Again?
Yeah, I know. And I think we'll be discussing this for the next 8 months in the run-up to the elections. So firstly, Sanket, the elections are still 6-8 months away. And as you know, politics is in a state of flux. I think the Karnataka result has definitely created a lot of fluidity in Indian politics. So we have to track this, maybe weekly, monthly, to see where all these moves lead, how the political scenario pans out. But I think there are a couple of important things that emerged from today's meeting. Firstly, the fact that Mamata Banerjee sat across the table with Sitaram Yechuri and D. Raja, that is a huge breakthrough. These are her sworn enemies, the CPM, but Mamata Banerjee did share the table with them. The second is that PDP and NC, again, sat across the table, again, sworn rivals and opponents, but they did sit across the table to discuss the prospects of opposition unity. So I think, something is happening there, and we'll have to track it, and I'm glad you're doing these shows, and I hope to be on more of them.
Yeah, absolutely, Ms. Jerath. We would also love to do many more shows, and the reason why we say that this appears to be the biggest and perhaps in the past 9 years of all the opposition unity meetings that we have seen, the most sincere of them all is because we see a lot of traditional players who had in fact decided not to be there were also part of this. There are many others who are, there is much more to be achieved. There are many players who are still not there. But this is a process which has begun, which will go from state to state to state. Now, Mr. S.P. Mishra, before I come to you, Ms. Reena Gupta, Mr. S.P. Mishra, here is what Anurag Thakur, who is a senior minister in the BJP government, in the Narendra Modi government, he says, एक अकेले मोदी के विरोध में 17 विपक्षी दलों की बैठक का निचोड़, which means that this is the sum and substance of the meeting of 17 opposition parties against the lone warrior, Mr. Narendra Modi. He says, नीतीश कुमार कन्वीनर स्वीकार नहीं, राहुल गांधी की शादी का प्रस्ताव पास, मम्मी बहुत नाराज हैं, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करेंगे, सवाल नहीं लेंगे, दिल मिलते नहीं, सीटें मिलने की उम्मीद नहीं इन्हें, दिल्ली दरवाज़ा खोलने का दम भरने वाले केजरीवाल मीटिंग खत्म होने से पहले ही खिसक लिए, जम्मू कश्मीर में अमन चैन बर्दाश्त नहीं, 370 वापस लाके फिर से आतंकवाद की जड़ गहरी करेंगे। पॉलिटिकल टूरिज्म के नए द्वार खुले। बिहार में लिट्टी चोखा रसगुल्ला खाके अब शिमला में धाम पर मिलेंगे।
I want to say that it's a happy thing that Anurag Thakur is talking like that. He is playing a victim card for Narendra Modi.
Victim card?
Yeah, it's a victim card that he's alone and he's very much incapable. And sometimes they prove that he is very much capable. एक अकेला सब पर भारी, ये तानाशाही प्रवृत्ति। मैं इस पर एक लाइन हिंदी में कहना चाहूँगा कि बिहार की धरती से जिस तरह गांधी ने आज़ादी का आंदोलन शुरू किया था, जयप्रकाश नारायण ने इस देश में लोकतंत्र को स्थापित करने के लिए फिर से आंदोलन अघोषित तानाशाही के खिलाफ, ये तमाम पार्टियां जो बैठी, दे सेट टुगेदर टू सेव द डेमोक्रेसी। इससे पता चलता है कि बीजेपी में बेचैनी बढ़ी है इन एकता से। इस एकता को देखने के बाद कि तमाम विपक्षी दल जो अलग अलग विचारधारा में है, लेकिन उन्होंने एक चीज तय किया कि इस देश को बचाने के लिए हमें साथ बैठना है और साथ मिलकर आगे लड़ाई लड़नी, और अगली बैठक शिमला में होगी। और रहा बात संयोजक और किसी पद को लेकर किसी सब में त्याग की भावना है, सवाल पद का नहीं है, सवाल इस देश की प्रधान नीति का है। What will be the main policy and policy maker of this country to save the democracy and save the constitutional
framework? The one point over here is for all the political stakeholders here, and let me ask this of Ms. Reena Gupta. Ms. Gupta, the fact that various political stakeholders attended this meeting is a welcome step. A lot of people in the opposition space welcomed it also, that Mamta has also come, Kejriwal has also come. But to immediately put conditions, that conditions apply, either this or that, do you feel that that would be the best way to move forward in your assessment?
So today, all the political parties that gathered in Patna, everybody was standing with Aam Aadmi Party on the ordinance issue, except for the Congress Party. Congress Party needs to realize that this fight is bigger than, why are they making it personal? Rahul Gandhi said कि भाजपा को हराने के लिए मैं त्याग करने के लिए तैयार हूं। तो ये किस तरह का त्याग है कि अगर आप दिल्ली के ऑर्डिनेंस के ऊपर अपना स्टैंड क्यों नहीं क्लियर कर रहे हैं? The ordinance issue is black and white. There is no complication there. It is against the Supreme Court judgment. It is against
But Ms. Gupta, why is it such a deal breaker for your party? Do you feel that you might be accused of being a little parochial in your vision of an united opposition?
Not at all, Sanket. The ordinance, what the political parties had gathered together, they said they are together to save democracy, save the constitution, because we feel that democracy and constitution are under threat by the Bharatiya Janata Party. The biggest issue right now is the ordinance.
Okay.
And it is a very clear-cut case, so I don't understand where the confusion lies in the Congress Party.
Okay, let me ask this question of Dr. Ajay Kumar. Dr. Ajay Kumar, do you feel that at a time when you are beginning this big process, this first shifting of tectonic plate or fissures or seismic activity in the opposition must be dealt with immediately? For instance, what's the inhibition of the Congress Party in supporting another member in the opposition?
No, the first question I told you is that there are lots of different, and it's very peevish for the Aam Aadmi Party. I've said this before, I think the party said it. Mr. Kharge has made a stand clear. So either they want to get out of it, which is for them to decide. That's not for me to comment on. When Mr. Kharge said we will decide before the monsoon session, then they're probably looking at ways to, because I'm quite surprised with whether it's Reena ji or all this spokesperson coming on the TV channel, the kind of statements they're making. We've been fighting the Bharatiya Janata Party in every, and in fact, they've been quite helpful in Goa and other places. So those are, but I don't want to get into that, because that's like nitpicking and saying you didn't speak about Umar Khalid, or you didn't speak about so much of other things, which are also constitutional issues. There are so many issues which they didn't speak on, and there's a long list. But it's not the issue. The issue was all parties got together. The Communist and Mamta ji can sit together, and there are lots of issues with them. There are lots of issues which we had. Shiv Sena and Congress would have never sat together at a particular.
No, Dr. Kumar, I agree with you. I mean, the opposition over here is trying to work together and iron out these contradictions, or work with the contradictions. But Dr. Kumar, what is making the Congress party wait this long to perhaps, and this is my final question on the Aam Aadmi Party, because there are many other aspects we have to discuss.
Sanket,
why the delay in this decision?
No, so question is, political parties, why would 370, what was each other's stand? Would Umar Abdullah go and ask Arvind Kejriwal that please take your, we will support if you take it back? Umar Abdullah showed a large heart. Mehbooba Mufti showed a large heart, and what they did was against all of, and would that be a counter? But that didn't come in between, for Umar Abdullah Mufti. One second, let me complete. So my question is the peevishness and the smallness of the whole idea. Coming on TV, you spokesperson coming and saying, we have said Mr. Kharge is a person, or the Congress party is not somebody who's going to be bulldozed by the Aam Aadmi Party saying, please decide our future or not. We said we will decide it by the monsoon session. Have the gravitas and the decency and the class to accept certain statements. I mean, and we've definitely, it's agonizing because rest of the parties, there are lots of differences. We still manage it. We still cut across, and I think Aarti was absolutely spot on. The arithmetic is that they're 33% of the vote share the BJP got, 37% in the last Lok Sabha elections. They had 49 parties or 49 parties along with them. If the opposition is able to, and wherever the opposition index of unity is there, we've been able to beat them. Karnataka was one of those rare examples where you're able to beat them. No, one second, I'll just complete. So it's something we need to understand. Why is it necessary? It is necessary because here is a party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which has destroyed all, not only constitution norms. I'm telling you, Sanket, I wrote on an anchor today on the Twitter, this out of 18 shows last month, the guy did 13 shows on Hindu-Muslim gaming jihad and all. The only thing is to keep boiling the cauldron of Muslim-Hindu debate without discussing the issues which are... And this guy is the national TV of one of the most important...
Dr. Kumar, not going to discuss other anchors, but the point is, here we are sitting and discussing opposition unity. The fact that this is a very, this is my assessment, correct me if I'm wrong. So far in the past 9 years, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, this seems to be the biggest effort, and from the looks of it, a very sincere effort, because it will go from state to state to state. RP Singh, I'll come to you. I know you do not agree with this, but we'll come to you. Ghanshyam Tiwari, the problem is how do you work with the contradictions? Because in your state of Uttar Pradesh, on NDTV's conclave, Akhilesh Yadav said that everybody has to come along, show a large heart. It's Samajwadi Party versus the BJP. I think there was a slogan also, 80 harao, BJP hatao. Yeah, so my point is, from that very state, you've got a Mayawati who says that haath se haath mila lijiye, dil se dil to nahi mile. So then you are going to continue to deal with these contradictions and frictions. Do you feel that in the days ahead and months ahead, with these various meetings, आप चाहेंगे कि हाथ के साथ साथ दिल भी मिलना शुरू हो जाए?
Sanket, let's look at the building blocks of what is happening. The building blocks are leaders such as Nitish Kumar ji, Sharad Pawar ji, Akhilesh Yadav ji, who have continuously spoken about how the nation must act in the spirit of constitution, and opposition parties must come together in a way that in every seat for 2024, BJP faces one key opponent. And that is one building block. The second building block is the alliance cannot be opportunistic. It cannot be arm twisted. No one could be arm twisted into any alliance. It has to be an alliance that appears credible to the people, sincere to the people, to use your word, and it should be formed in front of the people. The agenda should evolve in front of the people. Third, the agenda itself cannot be narrow. At a time when from India to United States, the Prime Minister, who may lecture on democracy but is asked point blank on democracy, a former President of United States, who the Prime Minister calls his best friend, is saying that the Prime Minister's approach may lead to breaking apart of the Indian nation. So clearly these dangers are real, and across the country we feel it. We feel the fact that the Prime Minister has visited 4 countries but has not found time to visit Manipur. And if there was an election in Manipur, he would have visited a dozen times. So I think that what the discussion between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress Party is a sideshow. The biggest thing is that in 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now in Shimla, there will be a meeting that will set the agenda for 2024. And it is not very difficult to underline that agenda. Agenda is an India which has a large heart, which is an India of harmony, which looks at employment opportunities for the youth, that works together towards federal structure, that instills the spirit of constitution, that opens the wings of press in India. How shameful it is that Prime Minister of India, who has not been able to do a single press conference in India, has to go out in the United States and in a big show take 1 or 2 questions. We have a very vibrant press. Even Mr. R.P. Singh, who's a BJP spokesperson, has come from the media fraternity. I don't think he would remember even in his imagination, any Prime Minister of India who does not have the ability to take questions from the press, even though he apparently is very popular and has a prachand bahumat in the parliament.
Okay. A quick right to reply to Mr. R.P. Singh of the BJP. Mr. Singh, your response.
Well, first let me clarify on this Ajay and Reena's tug of war. The problem is that there's a deal which is happening between the two. The deal is that will the cases against Channi will pursued or not. Aam Aadmi Party think will pursue those cases. We have to, because the local leadership is compelling them to pursue cases against Channi. Whereas Congress is saying that if you pursue cases against Channi in Punjab, then we will not support you. So there's already there's a real reason. So the whole of the issue is that they want to hide their corruption and deal with the corruption at the other end. So actually, two ends of the corruption are not meeting together. That's the real problem between the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party. But coming to the issue of the Nishant Tiwari about democracy and others, I mean, sir, जब आप election जीतते हैं, when you win elections, then democracy is perfectly functioning. Yeah, even the perfectly functions. Elections are perfectly good. When you win cases in court or when the decisions of the court are against the government, then courts are good and healthy. If decisions of the court are not as per your choice, then the courts are biased or courts are being manipulated. I mean, the recent decision of the High Court on the Calcutta, on the West Bengal elections, the local elections there, the court has categorically said that if you keep on going using bombs openly like this, then we will be sorry that we won't allow the election to happen. So that's why courts are not healthy or courts are not working as per their requirement. So it's all as per their need. I mean, if the things go as per them, then it's good. It's my way or highway. That's the problem. But one thing is clear, that India is growing on economy. It's the 7th successive year when we are the fastest growing economy. Inflation rate is less than 5%.
Can I come in, please?
Yeah, one moment.
I never interrupted you, Reena. And 4.25% was the last quarter. But that point aside, the overall economy is looking healthy, and then that's why the countries from worldwide, they are looking toward us to do ties or to build up.
No, let me just ask a simple question. Mr. R.P. Singh, all this, of course, in the run-up to 2024, you'll have to convince to the voters. Now, will you not welcome a united opposition in whatever shape and form? Right now, what you're doing is you're saying they cannot unite. This is the position of the BJP right now. ये तो एक साथ हो ही नहीं सकते. You are highlighting the fault lines. But would you be up for a contest? Whatever shape, size, form this opposition takes.
Okay. No, I'm saying so that we want a good, healthy, united opposition. We are for it. I mean, any good democracy, vibrant democracy needs a good opposition.
Have you asked such thing, R.P. Singh? Have you asked such thing to Prime Minister Modi that you want a really good opposition force?
SP Mishra is asking a question.
Mishra ji, मेरा नाम R.P. Singh, R.P. Singh नहीं, माफी चाहता हूँ.
R.P. Singh, Sardar R.P. Singh, yes.
R.P. Singh ji, have you asked this question to Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji that he wants a good opposition where he claims that ek sab par bhari?
No, एक सब पे भारी इसलिए क्योंकि आप इस प्रकार का
आप लोग भी उनके साथ नहीं है क्या? अकेला छोड़ दिया उनको?
अरे सुनिए सर, एक मिनट
जी बताइए.
आप ये बता दीजिए, नेहरूद्दीन ने अभी स्टेटमेंट दिया था, नीतीश कुमार ने उसका जवाब नहीं दिया. नेहरूद्दीन ने कहा था हमारे बच्चे आत्मरक्षा में बम बनाएंगे तो क्या बुरी बात है, आत्मरक्षा में बम बनाएंगे. क्या एक भी जवाब मिला? क्या उसका जवाब दिया? तो ये तो एजेंडा है आपका, ये एजेंडा है। आप देश के इस एजेंडे को तो रोकना ही पड़ेगा।
What I'm trying to tell RP Singh ji that definitely the BJP is unable to digest the unity of opposition and it is afraid of it. And I must tell you that
one by one, please, gentlemen, one by one. फैक्ट्री खोलने की छूट देना चाहते हैं, ये एजेंडा तो हम रोकेंगे और इसलिए एक सब पे भारी पड़ेगा।
Okay, SP Mishra and then Mr. Bishwajit Deb.
I must tell you, RP Singh ji, that there is a data of CSDS. If 1% vote switch towards the opposition party, your government is not going to be formed in the 2024. And you have already lost election in Karnataka, and you are going to lose Madhya Pradesh even and Rajasthan. So wait for the right time. The opposition unity has
one by one, please, one by one.
Opposition unity has put great challenge before Narendra Modi.
Dr. Ajay Kumar wants to come in.
Your numbers from the Alliance Party.
Yes. Okay. RP Singh, one moment. Dr. Ajay Kumar wants to come in.
So,
can I also come in?
Yes, Ms. Gupta, right after that.
So the important thing is, if the opposition unity was not scaring them, why would Anurag Gupta and Sushil Modi and Amit Shah and Nadda and all keep jumping every 30 seconds as if they're on a hot seat? I mean, they're the only goal, if they were not worried, if eight sab par bhari, the fact is what Mr. Mishra said is correct. If there is a couple of percent, I mean, exactly the percentage, 1% or the data, I'm not sure Mishra ji knows better than me. But the fact is that if they come, the fact is that if they're down by a couple of percentage points, then they're not forming the government and they're down to 100 seats. Now, the question again is, if you go seat by seat and across it, and if you get the opposition stronger, and you need to remember something. All opposition parties will not be on board. That will be the reality. There may be a party in Uttar Pradesh which may not come on board, and those are realities. But I was just looking at, I can start with a very practical example of Bihar. If JDU and RJD and Congress are together, with the left together, if TMC makes an adjustment with the opposition parties, then the BJP comes down by approximately more. One second, let me complete this. It's important to understand it. One second, sir. I didn't interrupt, sir. I just want to complete it.
Mr. Singh, one more, please.
Sir, I never interrupted.
I'll give you time. Yes.
Yeah. RP Singh, sir.
Can I come in?
Don't worry, sir. I know you are fighting Mr. Modi's fight alone, so that's all right. So I'll give you are absolutely okay to speak when you have more time. See, the issue is look at it from the arithmetic perspective, not only in a political perspective.
Yes, Mr. Bishwajit, right after Dr. Ajay Kumar.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bengal, they'll get wiped out. Bihar, they get wiped out. And if UP are able to swing, 50% of the seats, they are down to 100. Closer to 100, the numbers, because South, everything else. So they also know this game. It's not that Mr. Modi is very popular. The fact is that, I know I shouldn't speak on the media, on the TV channel, but a lot of it is created. The issues like Manipur, a guy talks about Kashmir, Anurag Thakur about Kashmir, so shameless that doesn't talk about Manipur. I mean, he comes on national television and talks about they're talking about democracy. They lock up people on UAP and every flimsy excuses, whether it is Father Stan Swami, whether this is a civil rights activist. They threaten Twitter at international levels. India is getting insulted. So, if opposition gets together, they know that they are not coming back, and if they don't come back, they are so hungry for power that they're just losing their sense of balance. And that is why they keep attacking us. If we were not relevant, why would they attack us?
Okay. Bishwajit Deb of the Trinamool Congress. Yes, Mr. Bishwajit.
Yes.
My only question is, how do you work towards ironing out these inherent contradictions in the opposition space? For instance, just to remind you, the Trinamool Congress, immediately after losing a by-election in West Bengal, very clearly said, no way we'll do business with Congress or the left. And yet, here we are.
And remind me of Sagar Ji.
These are all,
Mr.
These are all, let me reply. Yeah. These are all local issues. But when it is in the national perspective, our aim is only one aim, that we want a united opposition and we want this autocratic government to be removed. BJP should realize the ground reality that their graph is going down. Their graph is going down. It is in South India, it is BJP Mukt South India. They should understand, and this will slowly go ahead towards Eastern India and Northern India, because people have tolerated enough of their autocracy. People have tolerated what they are doing in the name of ruling the country. They have just finished the democratic rules in the country. They have destroyed the basic structure of the constitution. Now they have targeted the Supreme Court also. They are bent upon to take over almost all the constitutional offices, and they have misused the agencies, the central agencies. I have not interrupted. It is your party. It is your party who has created all the violence in Bengal. It is your party. It is BJP which has created all the violence. The violence has been perpetrated by BJP in Bengal. Yes,
who's the Home Minister of State? Mamta Banerjee.
Just to shift the
Who's
blame.
the Home Minister of State? Why doesn't Mamta Banerjee shoulder of the BJP to come over? Everyone knows that who runs the bomb factory, who's part of the bomb factory, who throws the bomb on the road, who uses bomb for the election.
She has been
Does it happen in any other state? It only happens in Bengal now.
PM Modi and Amit Shah were thrown away from Bengal in 2021.
Sir,
Don't forget that.
Okay.
Okay,
I think I have to come in here. One moment. Too much screaming and shouting. I have to come in here. Reena Gupta, you see, on this program, let's see if we can put up that graphic on screen right now. What we call is the opposition's tricky triumvirate. We'll try to pull that graphic and put it on screen. The tricky triumvirate, Reena Gupta, comprises of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, his area of interest, Delhi and Punjab. Then Mamta Banerjee, her area of interest, West Bengal. And then Mr. KCR, his area of interest, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Of course, he has very little say in Andhra, but definitely in Telangana. In Telangana, there will be an assembly election as well. Now, two of these three, Mr. Mishra, have been a part of this opposition meeting. But, Reena Gupta, you have given your ultimatum also. Would you want to be seen in the opposition space as the part of the solution or the part of the problem, and continue to be the part of a tricky triumvirate?
Sanket, the fact that our senior leadership was present in Patna makes it very clear that we want to be part of this solution. Having said that, Sanket, I think Congress party needs to wake up and realize that Aam Aadmi Party is a national party. We have legislators in 4 states and we have our presence in 20 states.
Ms. Gupta, you only have one MP in Lok Sabha.
That's okay. Let's see how many we have in the upcoming elections. Let's talk about how many we have in the upcoming elections now, Sanket. The point is that whenever there has been a problem with Congress party, say for example, when Mr. Rahul Gandhi's membership was, when he was disqualified from his membership, we spoke against the Bharatiya Janata Party. We spoke in favor of Congress party. When in Pondicherry, their chief minister was being harassed by a Bharatiya Janata Party ALG, Mrs. Kiran Bedi, that time also we supported the Congress party. But the Congress party continues to think that they are the big brother, and this is not 60s or 70s. This is the reality of today is that Aam Aadmi Party is a national party and we have a presence across 20 states. So they need to make their stand very clear. All of their friends today asked Congress party to make their stand clear. And I'm very sorry, we cannot compare this to 370. This is a downright unconstitutional ordinance that Bharatiya Janata Party has brought out. So this is not like 370. This is killing the constitution. And for a party that says they want to stand for democracy, they want to stand for the constitution.
Okay. You know, I'll come to Dr. Ajay Kumar. We seem to be talking a lot about this ordinance. Obviously, you know, the position that parties will take will have some amount of bearing on how this alliance will take shape. But Aarti Jairath, do you feel that beyond this ordinance, there is going to be one crucial expression which needs to dominate the minds and hearts of everyone in the opposition, and that is expectation management? You see, in this increment season, every employee wants the best bonus and every company wants to give the least amount of money, right? And somewhere in the middle is that sweet spot which is called expectation management, right? So do you feel that this is what needs to be done?
Well, I would certainly caution the opposition not to count their chickens before they hatch. To be predicting that the BJP will be down to 100 seats today, when we're still 8 months away from the elections, is very premature, because there's so many hurdles to cross before you reach the stage where you actually have a one-on-one contest. As you said, there are so many differences to iron out. But I do feel that, you know, a beginning has been made today. And I think it is very unfortunate that the Aam Aadmi Party has put conditions. Today was a day to talk big about larger issues, about the need to come together, about democracy.
So you feel they're being parochial. You feel that they're being parochial in their vision.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's like if the PDP and National Conference said that you first say that you will revoke that, or you know, you will bring Article 370 back, only then we'll be part of an opposition united front. They didn't say that, right? Or if Mamata Banerjee were to say, kick the left out. If the Congress is going to have an alliance with the left in Bengal, then I don't want to be a part of these talks. But she didn't say that. So I think that, you know, Aam Aadmi Party must also do some expectation management. Yes, and a parliament session is coming up when this ordinance will be put to test. And I think that's really the time when the Aam Aadmi Party should mount pressure. But to be calling the Congress names and B team and deal and so on, these are not nice words to say on a day when the opposition
Do you think, Ms. Jairath, that going forward, going forward in Simla or then in Ranchi, or I don't know, I mean, from the way these meetings are going from city to city, I am assuming that they will go to all opposition ruled states. Wouldn't it be, or give out a greater political message, Mr. Mishra, if you went to states which the opposition does not rule?
No, any state. Suppose it would be the next state, Himachal Pradesh, and then definitely there will be so many states.
Do you feel the success of this enterprise will be when you actually add more players?
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than players giving conditions and leaving.
It will be decided by every political party. When you open arm to hug someone, you will have to be benevolent towards that person. I am not in a position to comment on Aam Aadmi Party's, you know, conditions, but what I want...
It appears to me that you are in doubt about them.
No. I am not in any kind of doubt. What I am suggesting that Nitish Kumar ji has already talked personally to Kejriwal ji in Delhi, and before press, he assured that he will talk to the Congress as well. Today is the day that we should celebrate the unity of opposition, that it putting a challenge before the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Okay, my final question.
Destroying the constitution and the basic fabric
my
of
final
India.
question to Ghanshyam Tiwari and then Dr. Ajay Kumar. Ghanshyam Tiwari, we spoke to Ravi Shankar Prasad of the BJP a short while ago, and he said, ये नीतीश कुमार जी की बारात का दूल्हा कौन है? Which means the all-important question, Modi versus who? Who's the prime ministerial face?
For 9 years, BJP has said, एक अकेला, right? So, वहाँ दूल्हा है तो बारात नहीं है. पहली बात. दूसरी बात, the Prime Minister goes to US and says that India has 2,500 political parties.
Okay.
Can anybody on this panel name 5 political parties that are credibly with BJP? Finally, in this contrast, when opposition leaders meet from state to state in India to build a momentum for a new alliance for 2024, the only way Prime Minister of India is gathering public momentum is by visiting country to country outside India. It is not...
Okay. Dr. Kumar, final word, please. Running out of time, 30 seconds left. Dr. Kumar.
States in India will wait for...
Dr. Kumar, Modi versus who? Dula kaun hai? That's the question BJP asks.
No, the question again was, you saw that in Karnataka, it was on Modi, they fought and people rejected him. You said one thing interesting. What is the next opposition state? The next opposition state after Himachal, where we will have a meeting, would be most probably Madhya Pradesh, because it will become a part of the Congress and the other like-minded people parties government for sure. The important part, I think Aarti missed it when I said 100 seats is no. I said if there's a vote swing, then the situation dramatically changes with 2 to 3% of vote swing.
Okay.
The fundamental issue is that 67% of this country, or 64% did not vote for them. So if we are able to tactically, ideologically, smartly play, because the Bharatiya Janata Party is along with the along with the support of the the electronic and the print media and all, which is quite phenomenal. It makes it into a very strong electoral machine because of the support they get. But we can definitely give them a run for their money.
Okay, okay. I've run out of time.
It's important for
but you know, as leaders in the opposition meet from...
not to come on TV channels and criticize each other.
Sure, Dr. Kumar, I've run out of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajay Kumar, RP Singh, Reena Gupta, SP Mishra, Biswajit Dev, Ghanshyam Tiwari and Aarti Jairath. And as the opposition continues to meet, Mr. Mishra, I believe we will also keep doing many, many more debates on the index of opposition unity and whether this is going to work in 2024. This is going to be a very interesting space. Do stay with us. News continues on the other side.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core.
Congress party needs to realize that this fight is bigger than, why are they making it personal? Rahul Gandhi said कि भाजपा को हराने के लिए मैं त्याग करने के लिए तैयार हूं. तो ये किस तरह का त्याग है कि अगर आप दिल्ली के ऑर्डिनेंस के ऊपर अपना स्टैंड क्यों नहीं क्लियर कर रहे हैं? The ordinance issue is black and white. There is no complication there. It is against the Supreme Court judgment. The political parties are gathered together. They said they are together to save democracy, save the constitution, because we feel that democracy and constitution are under threat by the Bharatiya Janata Party. The biggest issue right now is the ordinance.
Okay.
And it is a very clear-cut case, so I don't understand where the confusion lies in the Congress party.
दुनिया में कुछ लोग. In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
a debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
Day 2 of the Prime Minister's state visit to Egypt. The Prime Minister to visit the Al Hakim Mosque and also award cemetery there. The Prime Minister will be holding talks with the Egyptian President. And just 200 kilometers from the capital, Moscow, Russian mercenaries retreat. The Wagner chief calls to avoid mutiny in order to avoid bloodshed. Well, the Wagner stops the march as Belarus brokers peace deal in 24 hours of chaos in Russia. The latest on the northeastern state of Manipur. Faced with mob, the army calls off an operation in the capital, Imphal. The army apprehends but then releases 12 armed rebels, I beg your pardon. The army says a decision was taken to avoid deaths due to the use of force, but weapons and warlike stores seized from insurgents. Tragic news coming in from Mumbai. 2 workers have died. They drowned in an overflowing drain as heavy rains lashed Mumbai. 2 dead after heavy rains in Mumbai's Govandi and other parts of the city. The bodies were pulled out by fire officials. And a big focus at this hour is the Prime Minister's second day of his visit to Egypt. This is a state visit, and he'll also be holding talks with the Egyptian leadership. In fact, this will also include President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Remember, the 2 nations are seeking to enhance their strategic and trade partnership. The Prime Minister is visiting at the invitation of Egyptian President el-Sisi, and this is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Egypt in nearly 26 years. The Prime Minister began his visit, in fact, with discussions with the Egyptian Prime Minister and also top cabinet ministers. Now, trade is, of course, the big focus, but also the bid is to strengthen strategic partnership with the North African country. Now, in his first engagement, the Prime Minister held a meeting with the newly set up India unit at the Egyptian cabinet, headed by the Prime Minister there himself. Discussions are focusing on trade, as I mentioned, and also investment. And Egypt is expected to invest a great deal in India now, and also renewable energy, green hydrogen, IT, digital payment platforms, pharmaceuticals, and also the big focus is on people-to-people ties. So, of course, the big focus is on trade and strategic cooperation. I'm being joined by two guests to talk about this crucial visit as far as the Prime Minister's two-day state visit to Egypt is concerned. Dr. Wael Awad, senior international independent journalist, and also joining me, Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat, somebody who has served 4 years in Egypt as well, and also in other Arab countries. Thanks so much to the both of you for joining us on the broadcast this morning. Former diplomat Prabhu Dayal is with us on the broadcast. Mr. Dayal, coming to you first, because this is being seen as a game changer for India-Egypt ties. Of course, it's also expected that this will dramatically increase India's investment in Egypt. But at the outset, Mr. Dayal, why is it being seen as a game-changing visit? Why the renewed focus on Egypt? Why is Egypt important for India, given the fact that PM Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Egypt in decades, and also this comes just less than 6 months after the Egyptian president's visit in January to New Delhi. So why this renewed focus really on Egypt? Why is it significant?
Well, it is significant first and foremost because, as you pointed out, it is the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Egypt since 1997. There was, of course, a visit by Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2009, but that was for the NAM summit. So bilateral visits are on a different plane altogether in diplomacy. On the other hand, President Al-Sisi has visited India thrice in recent years. So it was very important for India to reciprocate in order to show that we attach a lot of importance to Egypt. Of course, we invited President Al-Sisi as the chief guest to our Republic Day celebrations.
Right.
We have also invited Egypt as a guest country to the G20 summit. So these are gestures which are very meaningful in themselves. Now, why is this visit significant in terms of content?
Right.
Firstly, Egypt has a very, very important strategic location. It is situated at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe. It controls and owns the Suez Canal, through which all the maritime traffic from the Red Sea goes to the Mediterranean Sea. So the geostrategic significance of Egypt cannot be lost on anybody.
Absolutely.
Let me mention that Egypt has recently set up a very important port on the Red Sea, and that is the port Bernisi. Right. And that port can play a very significant role in regard to the Western Indian Ocean, where India has significant interest, and where China has been expanding its role and threatening what may be our legitimate interests in that region. So the geostrategic importance of Egypt is very much there. Secondly, Egypt and India are working closely together on the issue of global terrorism. Let me mention that India and Egypt have set up a joint working group on terrorism, which met after President Al-Sisi's recent visit in January.
Right.
And this working group sent out a very clear message that we two countries will not tolerate state-sponsored terrorism.
Absolutely. And also, Mr. Dayal, that crucial point you were making about how it's very significant geopolitically, given the fact that Cairo can also be a gateway to major markets in Africa and Europe. So that's very significant. But also, Dr. Wael Awad, coming on the point of how this could also potentially pave the way for Egypt's entry into the BRICS economic bloc. That is also something that's being seen, watched very closely globally. How is this going to benefit India?
Well, I think the benefit will be very significant, especially in terms of India investment in Africa and also in Indian access to the Western market through the Suez Canal. So there will be a very important role for India to play geopolitically and also on the global scenario, where we will see India is being seen as an alternative route for the trades from the Chinese way, of which where they're trying to promote the Road and Belt initiative by Xi Jinping since 2013. So I think the American playing a major role also in bringing these countries together. Having said that, I would say also India of recently have noticed that they have been away for decades from the African continent. So now they are back into the African continent. And I agree with Ambassador Prabhu, especially when he mentioned the geopolitical importance of Egypt, that will be of a great significance for Indian trade and also investment. Let us remember also that Indian capital surplus has been also increased and India is willing to invest. So I think it's economy, which is of prime importance. And secondly, that two civilization is this in Egypt and India, and they enjoy the historical ties. And I think it's good and significant as well that we should link our history with the current contemporary history where they can be cemented into a better relation. Egypt is the largest populous Arabic state. It's an Arab state. It's an African state. It also plays a major role in the Arab affairs. So I think the more India gets closer to Egypt, the less will be a problem for India internal affairs, especially when it comes to relation or resentment or some stringing ties with the Arab world and some sort of apprehension about the internal affairs. So I think that also has a very significant. Therefore, the visit should be seen from different prisms of economy, politically, and also culture.
Right, Dr. Awad, that the point you were making about how India and Egypt have shared historical ties as well. In fact, there's a shared history of non-alignment from power blocks as well. Ambassador Dayal, come in on this point of how this will, in a sense, help India to emerge more strongly as a voice of the global South, given the fact that now India is leading the G20 presidency. So in that context, how is it going to help India globally?
Well, it's very important for India to establish closer relations with other major countries of the global South. And without doubt, Egypt is one such country. Egypt is not only strategically located, it is also the largest Arab country in terms of population. It has the largest army in the Arab world, and it plays a very important role in Middle Eastern politics. So it's important for India to have a good relationship with Egypt, which it has always had, but then, a relationship should never be neglected. It should be nurtured further. I may also mention that Egypt has also steadily maintained a policy of neutrality in the Russia-Ukraine war. Egypt has refrained from taking sides, which is exactly what India itself champions, and I think there is some meeting ground there. Then, of course, India is working very, very assiduously to develop closer relations with a whole host of other Arab countries. Saudi Arabia, for instance, or UAE, Kuwait, the Western African countries, Morocco, for instance. Now, it is important that we have a very, very substantive relationship with such a key Arab country, with Egypt. Now, you outlined the areas where such cooperation can grow. Of course, there is the strategic cooperation, but that includes cooperation in the area of defense. Egypt, as I said, has the largest standing army in the Arab world, but then it needs defense equipment.
Right.
It has been relying on the United States and other Western countries. But, Egypt is going through a very tough time financially. So it needs to procure good weaponry, but at cheaper costs, where India is a very viable alternative.
Right.
Then there are the areas of investment. Egypt is trying to increase foreign investment, and on the other hand, India is now in a position to invest in a whole host of countries, and Indian industrialists are already present in Egypt as investors.
Right.
There is bilateral trade. Egypt is going through, as I said, a tough time, and it has problems of food security. There are pharmaceutical needs. There are a whole host of areas like information technology, education,
Right, and
Where
very
the
significant
two
how you
countries
pointed
can
out
work
that
together.
Egypt, of course, is also going through its own food crisis, etc. Ambassador, and Dr. Awad, come in on this point, because we saw that how India, even though when it had a cap on wheat exports, it stepped in to help Egypt, crisis-ridden economy of Egypt. So, the spectacle of the most important Arab country, in a sense, standing by Modi's India. How is that spectacle significant for Prime Minister Modi's own image?
Well, I think recently the Prime Minister's or Indian image has been tarnished in the Arab world and Islamic world because of certain elements within the Indian society who is trying to spoil the diversity, multi-diversity of India and multi-ethnic roots, and they have attacked certain minorities. So therefore, there was significant changes, and I think the vested interest nations took full advantage of it to spoil India's image. But I think with the Arab world, the Gulf state and most of the Arab world understanding India's diversity and keeping in mind the deep-rooted relation, these have been washed away, and such kind of visit will also ascertain that India remain and will be always a multi-ethnic and a multi-diverse society where will be all the Indian will be playing a major role in any kind of political or decision making.
Right.
So when you have a prime minister making just a visit to certain religious places, I think also it gives a message, especially India going for election next year. And this also will give internal message, because let us remember that the Muslim organization was the strongest in Egypt, and Mohammed Morsi, the former president, when he took over, he played a major role in promoting in the Arab Springs destabilizing the Arab. I think when you focus on the secular India and secular Egypt, it's of a prime importance, not only for the two countries, but for the rest of the world.
Absolutely. So very important messages there in the Prime Minister's crucial two-day state visit to Egypt. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us on the morning broadcast. Well, time for a short break now. More news continues on the other side. Stay with us.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
And well, the Prime Minister's first visit to Egypt since he became the Prime Minister, and also, of course, in nearly 2 decades, will see him paying a visit to the Al-Hakim Mosque in Egypt. Now, this nearly 1,000-year-old structure in the heart of the Egyptian capital has a special connection with the community of Muslims, the Daudi Bohras, in India. And the Prime Minister Prime Minister will in turn also shares an old and warm relationship with this community, dating back to his days as Chief Minister of Gujarat. What is the significance of this community? Vasudha breaks it down for us.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurating the new campus of the Saifai Academy in Mumbai. This was his most recent interaction with the Daudi Bohra community. As he heads out from Washington DC to Cairo, a high point of his first visit to Egypt will be his visit to the Imam Al-Hakim Mosque.
The re-innovation of recently reopened Al-Hakim Mosque was co-founded by the Daudi Bohra Muslims. Bohras draw their roots to Egypt. Nearly for 5 generations, they have made their home in India. The community acts as a link between Egypt and India.
Daudi Bohras have been an integral part of all of Prime Minister's diaspora events. Wow. Be it the Madison Square Garden event in New York or the Olympic Park Arena address in Sydney. Daudi Bohras have always been there to greet the Prime Minister.
मुझे खुशी है कि बोहरा समाज पूरे विश्व को भारत की इस ताकत से परिचित करा रहा है। दुनिया में कहीं पर भी जाइए, वो मुझे मिल जाएगी केप छो।
So who are the Daudi Bohras? Followers of the Fatimi Ismail Tayyibi school of thought. They draw their roots to Egypt and made their way to India in the 11th century. Siddhpur in Patan district of Gujarat is a place of reverence for them. Nearly 5 lakh Bohras have made their home in India. They derive their name from the Gujarati word Vaharao, meaning to trade. And the trader city of Surat is considered their base.
आप में से अधिकतर व्यापार और कारोबार से जुड़े हुए हैं। नियम, कायदे से काम कैसे किया जाता है, अनुशासन में रहते हुए व्यापार को आगे कैसे बढ़ाया जाता है। दाऊदी बोहरा समाज दुनिया में जहां जहां भी बसा, इन मूल्यों से उसने अपनी एक अलग पहचान बनाई है, एक नई इज्जत बनाई है।
Prime Minister Modi has had a warm relationship with the Daudi Bohras dating back to his Gujarat Chief Minister days. Prime Minister Modi had paid a visit to the present religious head of the community, Sayyidina Mufaddal Saifuddin, with whom he has always shared a cordial relationship. Sayyidina called on the Prime Minister, and the latter fondly reminisced his relationship with 4 generations of the Daudi Bohra religious heads. In 2018, he addressed the Ashara Mubarak, commemoration of the martyrdom of Imam Hussain at Indore's Saifi Mosque, where over 1 lakh members of the community had participated. And in Cairo, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will once again cement ties with the Daudi Bohra community. With Ahmed Naguib in Cairo, Usama Shah for NDTV.
All eyes on that crucial visit by the Prime Minister to Egypt. Short break now, news continues on the other side. Stay with us.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
a debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, Building a Blueprint for Climate Action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation.
Hello friends and welcome back to another episode of your favorite show of technology, Tech with TG. I mean, this show is super special because यहाँ पे हम टेक्नोलॉजी की दुनिया में एकदम ऐसा डीप जाते हुए बात करते हैं. We just not talk about कि अभी मार्केट में क्या चल रहा है, what all gadgets we have around us. In fact, we talk about what's happening next. Basically in this show, tech stands for technology, of course, लेकिन साथ में not just technology, new innovations, new hardware, new software, AI and much more. And TG simply stands for Technical Guruji, which is myself, your host for this show, Gaurav Chaudhary, aka Technical Guruji. In this episode, I'm gonna tell you कि आप कैसे safe रह सकते हैं in this huge world of tech, especially online. जल्दी से आगे बढ़ते हैं इस एपिसोड में, चलिए शुरू करते हैं. Guys, let me start by telling you a small story कि actually पिछले कुछ सालों में हुआ क्या है. You know, with all the gadgets in our hands, the way we are using all these products, हम इंटरनेट को यूज करना स्टार्ट कर चुके हैं. तो right now, I would say we are living in a phygital space. Think about it कि if you are living in Bangalore और अगर आपको दिल्ली में कहीं मूव करना है, आप एक वीडियो कॉल के थ्रू जो एक अपार्टमेंट मैनेजर होगा उससे बात कर रहे हो, वो आपको पूरा एक व्यू दे रहा है. नेक्स्ट फ्यू आवर्स यू एक्चुअली स्टार्ट लिविंग इन दैट प्लेस. हमने चाहे फ्लाइट्स को बुक किया हो, मे बी यू आर काइंड ऑफ यूजिंग योर लैपटॉप्स, फोन्स, आईपैड्स, all the gadgets, doing numerous Google searches. आपने चाहे आंटी के मोमोज का पेमेंट किया हो यूपीआई से, या आपने कहीं एक कैब बुक करी हो पहुंचने के लिए. Basically, the thing is that the digital presence is increasing with each passing day. Now, the thing is, in the physical world, we know it's not completely safe. We are always aware. हमको पता होता है कि हमको कैसे बचना है. But then there are times जब हमारे पे अटैक्स होते हैं इन द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड. वी आर लीस्ट अवेयर बिकॉज ये जो हमारे सेंसेस हैं, जो हम देखते सुनते हैं, ये सब चीजें दे डोंट फंक्शन इन द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड. सो इन दिस एपिसोड आई एम गोना टॉक अबाउट इन डेप्थ how you can be safe in the world of internet. Not just that, in fact some basic hygienes to follow. और इसकी इंस्पिरेशन हमको मिलती है आप में से ही एक व्यूअर ने हमें कमेंट किया फ्रॉम बांग्लादेश, एंड द आस्क वाज बेसिकली a secure device. So I'll tell you how to be secure in this world. Now guys, before I move ahead, I'm sure majority of you are thinking maybe कि क्या ज़रूरत है cyber security की, मैं तो कुछ online करता ही नहीं हूँ. All I use is just the basic social media app and that's it. But let me tell you, just think about From the beginning, जब से आप इंटरनेट पे पहली बार आए थे, your first email address this xyzcooldude@this.com, वहां से लेके आज तक what all have you done on internet, सब कुछ छुपा नहीं है किसी से. All these big tech giants, they know everything about you. Your likes, your dislikes, आपने खाने में क्या ऑर्डर किया है, आपका घर कहाँ पे है, आपका ऑफिस कहाँ पे है, everything. आपका जैसा एक फिजिकल वर्ल्ड में प्रेजेंस है, एक सेम एग्जैक्ट प्रेजेंस इंटरनेट पे भी है, डिजिटल दुनिया में भी है. और मे बी देयर आर थिंग्स दैट यू डोंट नो अबाउट योरसेल्फ जो इन सब जाइंट्स को पता है, या बेसिकली कहीं ना कहीं आपने ट्रेसेस छोड़े हैं डिजिटल वर्ल्ड में. तो यहाँ पे सेफ्टी इज डेफिनेटली वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट. अदरवाइज देयर आर न्यूमरस प्रॉब्लम्स जो आपके सामने आ सकती हैं. आई विल गिव यू अ फ्यू एग्जांपल्स. अब गाइस, जैसा मैंने आपको बताया, वी ऑल शेयर टन्स ऑफ आवर पर्सनल डेटा ऑनलाइन, मोस्टली विद आवर कंसेंट, बट एट टाइम्स इवन विदाउट इट. जस्ट थिंक अबाउट अ हैकर गेटिंग एक्सेस टू योर ईमेल और सोशल मीडिया अकाउंट. वहां से वो आपको इंपर्सनेट कर सकता है, वो आप बन के आपके कॉन्टैक्ट्स के साथ बातें कर सकता है. एंड उससे क्या होगा? Maybe, loss to your personal life, some damage to your professional life, maybe, some legal issues, some financial loss, और sometimes loss of life. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं, from identity theft to kind of just impersonating you and then doing numerous things online. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, just continuing from the previous point, किसी के पास में अगर आपके बारे में information है which you don't intend to share, it might lead to cyber bullying. At times we see all these people chasing celebrities. Now they are used to it. मतलब hate comments हो या कुछ भी हो चल जाता है. But it becomes a big issue when it's about kids. उनके लिए बहुत बड़ा challenge है. Sometimes they don't know how to react. Sometimes they don't know how to handle stuff. And this actually creates a huge negative impact on their life. It's very important for the parents to kind of speak to their kids. If they are online, they need to be aware कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं, किससे बात कर रहे हैं, and how healthy they are in the world of internet. ओहो, मतलब मैं क्या बात करूं ऑनलाइन स्कैम्स के बारे में. आई कैन मे बी राइट एन एंटायर बुक और फिर भी पूरा नहीं होगा, बिकॉज दीज स्कैमर्स आर गेटिंग स्मार्ट ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. एवरी डे दे हैव अ न्यू ट्रिक, अ न्यू स्कीम और समथिंग टू जस्ट डू स्कैम्स इन दिस डिजिटल वर्ल्ड. आप अपनी लिस्ट में देख लें, अगर फ्रेंड्स में आपको जरूर 2-4 एग्जांपल्स तो मिल ही जाएंगे वेयर इन पीपल गॉट स्कैम्ड ऑनलाइन. छोटी अमाउंट हो या बड़ी अमाउंट हो, ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग के बाद में प्रोडक्ट सही नहीं निकला है वो हो, या फिर मे बी समवन गेटिंग अ QR कोड टू रिसीव द पेमेंट एंड व्हाइल यू स्कैन द कोड आपके अकाउंट से पैसा कट गया. फिर चाहे आपके पास में लकी डे समझ के लॉटरी का स्कैम आया हो, या मे बी यू आर गेटिंग एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू अर्न मनी व्हाइल जस्ट वॉचिंग वीडियोस एंड इवेंचुअली योर बैंक अकाउंट गेटिंग एम्प्टी. बहुत सारे ऐसे स्कैम्स हैं, चारों तरफ लिस्ट भरी हुई है. And the way these scams work is just because we lack awareness at times. And sometimes these scams are so simple to execute. At times, even the people who are tech savvy, वो भी इसमें फंस सकते हैं. Just think about you getting a normal video call from a simple looking number, and the moment you pick up the call, on the other side there's someone naked. And then just a screenshot and you will be completely blackmailed. तो आज की डेट में sometimes it's so difficult to believe that what is real and what is not. तो आपके लिए सिर्फ एक सलाह है, just keep your eyes, ears, everything open and never follow like the instructions as is. अगर आपको कोई कुछ करने को बोलता है, या take a break, think, analyze, and if you are sure about it, then only click that button, because that one click might cost you a lot. Now guys, before you get scared of the internet, because मैंने आपको इतनी सारी चीजें बता दी हैं, आपको शायद डर लग रहा होगा अभी, just clicking on that browser. हाँ, it's a given that we'll never read that 100 page of ULA before installing any app, or sometimes we'll just be in a hurry कि हम बस next करते हैं, permissions पे ध्यान देते नहीं हैं, just to get that app installed on the phone. But then there are a few basic things which are at times essential. You just need to follow these following tips just to make sure कि आप अपनी तरफ से कोई गलती ना करें. Sometimes, you just click pictures endlessly, post things on social media without even thinking about the consequences. So यहाँ पे privacy, starts from you, because you are sharing these things to the world of internet. You need to kind of, create this data very cautiously. Just like, जैसे आप पैसा खर्च कर रहे हैं, मतलब मुफ्त में आपने कुछ भी बांट दिया, because you never know कि वो चीज कब आपके अगेंस्ट में आ सकती है. If someone gets that access to your account, आपको अपनी ही रेपुटेशन संभालनी पड़ जाएगी. हम at times pictures click कर देते हैं, कुछ भी सोचते हैं मेरे फोन में ही तो है. I'm not posting this online, but just think about your phone getting hacked. Make sure that you think of this technical, digital world as like a physical world. जो काम आप real world में नहीं करना चाहोगे, please don't ever try doing those in the digital world just because you think it's virtual. तो क्या ही नुकसान होगा? नहीं, नुकसान बहुत ज्यादा हो सकता है. Guys, do you know which is the most common, the most used password globally? Yes, you guessed it right, maybe because शायद आपने भी कभी ये यूज किया होगा. It is in fact 1 2 3 4 5 6, or maybe QWERTY, or maybe password. If you see any extra post from your account which you don't remember, or maybe if you receive any email from your account wherein the password reset request is raised, or maybe any OTP, you need to think twice, thrice, I don't know, 100 times कि ये क्यों हुआ. Because these are signs, these are symptoms जो शायद आपको ये बताएं कि maybe some hacker is trying to get access to your account. The biggest tip for you is create strongest possible passwords. A combination of everything possible, from characters to small to capital to alphabets, to numerous, like everything. यहाँ पे आपका birth date नहीं हो सकता है, आपका कोई फैमिली मेंबर का नाम नहीं हो सकता है, आपके स्कूल का नाम नहीं हो सकता है, like those basic things. And at times try to keep your passwords in a way जहाँ पे they don't contain any dictionary word, because these hackers at times would do the attack and they'll just run through, because it's just a simple computer software जहाँ पे डिक्शनरी के सारे वर्ड, सारे पॉसिबल कॉम्बिनेशंस के साथ में आपके पासवर्ड के अगेंस्ट मैच किए जाएंगे. और अगर आपने अपना पासवर्ड रखा है पाइनएप्पल, तो आप फंस सकते हो. इसके आगे और भी चीजें हैं जहां पे यू नीड टू हैव अ 2-factor authentication, maybe a second layer of SMS OTP, or maybe in fact a physical key for you to log into your devices. You need to have all these possible things. Normally जब हम घर में होते हैं तो हम एक लगाते हैं बोल्ट, फिर दूसरा, फिर तीसरा, फिर चेन, फिर हमारा दरवाजा शायद 5 अलग-अलग तरीके से लॉक हो सकता है. We need to have kind of a similar layer of protection for all our accounts online. और अगर आपको जरा सा भी शोर आता है घर के बाहर, तो जैसे आप बाहर निकल के देखते हो कि कौन है, the same way if you see any activity to your accounts or maybe nearby, you need to be aware and आपको उसी टाइम पे तुरंत रिएक्ट करना है. ये जो हमारा मनी है इन द रियल वर्ल्ड, हम इसको अच्छे से प्रोटेक्ट कर लेते हैं, बट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड, at times we are so casual, हमको लगता है सब सेफ है, all is well. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. You need to be sure about the app that you are downloading, of your bank, let's say, वो एक सही सोर्स से आ रही है. It's the official app. अगर आप अपने बैंक की वेबसाइट पे हैं, तो you need to make sure by looking at the SSL certificate कि वो जो वेबसाइट है वो genuine है. आपको हमेशा aware रहना है. Never write your pins or kind of important bank login credentials and keep it in your wallet, or maybe write it on back of your ATM card. No, it's not going to help you. हो सकता है एक बार कभी याद ना आए तो आपको देख के याद आ जाए, but अगर वो कार्ड किसी और के पास चला गया तो फिर तो कुछ बचेगा ही नहीं. So all these things, मतलब if I talk about the digital way of payments and currency and everything, I mean we have strong laws in place, things are getting better, but why to even kind of risk it? Just think about stuff wherein आपका एक छोटा सा action, या बोलूं precisely तो maybe a wrong action, transports you from being the victim towards the other side. We have different laws, different states, different countries, like everything is so dynamic. हो सकता है जो एक चीज एक country में सही है, it is completely illegal in some other place. So आपको ये देखना बहुत जरूरी है. If you are posting anything on social media, if you are searching for any kind of banned stuff, let's say in a place wherein it's banned, आपके ये छोटे-छोटे actions, sometimes we feel क्या ही होगा, I'm just one of the billions of users. but you don't know where things can go wrong. So you need to be very sure about the local laws, no matter where you're staying, and just follow these laws even in the digital world. हमने देखा इन द पास बड़ी-बड़ी गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट्स या कॉर्पोरेट्स की वेबसाइट्स को हैक होते हुए, हमने देखा इन द पास बड़े-बड़े डेटा ब्रीचेस होते हुए. So at times it's very important for the corporates to kind of make sure that their cyber presence is completely safe and secure. The organizations would want to make sure that each individual working inside follows a certain thing, follows the protocol. Otherwise, अगर एक छोटी सी गलती है, उसका एक बहुत बड़ा result मिल सकता है in terms of a huge data breach containing data about, let's say, 10 million users. So ये सब चीजें in the past we have seen, happening. Not just data breaches. Maybe at times it's a legal liability. Maybe at times it's an IPR theft. Maybe at times it's a big fraud. Think about your office being shut for a day, or maybe for a week. अगर एक ransomware attack हुआ और अगर आप कुछ कर ही नहीं पा रहे हो तो it's good to assume that everything is good, everything is best, but you have to actually plan for the worst. You need to have certain protocols in place. You need to employ a certain team, which is working round the clock to make sure that your organization is completely safe online. No extra threats, are going through, और वो बाद में एक बड़ा damage ना पहुंचा दें. यहाँ पे it's not just about one small step. It's a continuous process. It's actually a lifestyle. हो सकता है even after employing all these practices, even after kind of making sure that you are working with the same protocol, everything is updated, you have the latest software and everything, still क्योंकि attacks इतने ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं, there are chances कि maybe someone enters your system and your system gets hacked. उस time पे आपका response क्या होगा? उसके लिए you need to have a complete emergency response team as well. Sometimes we are least bothered about data backups. उनको लगता है कि backup क्यों लेना है? But in my dictionary, there has to be a backup for the backup, and उस backup का भी एक और backup, और if possible, one more backup. The more, the better, and everything stored in different physical locations. इस show में हम because talking about cyber security, मैं सारी बातें बड़ी-बड़ी बता रहा हूँ कि क्या हो सकता है और क्या गलत जा सकता है. Just stay tuned because after the break, I'm going to talk about some real incidents जो हुए थे in the past. They were widespread globally, multiple virus attacks, and यहाँ पे losses हुए थे for billions of dollars.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change, and it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, Building a Blueprint for Climate Action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
that informs,
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV,
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity. Because at NDTV, trust is everything.